At midnight, when I heard those wet, rhythmic sounds coming from the bathroom, my blood ran cold. I knew everyone in the house should be asleep, but this sound, it echoed stubbornly, as if a secret was about to be revealed. I sat up in bed, ears straining. The sound stopped for a moment. I held my breath, hearing only the pounding of my own heart, just as I was trying to convince myself it was just ordinary noise from the old pipes. It started again, harder, deeper. My feet carried me involuntarily into the hallway. As I approached the bathroom, I saw dim light seeping from under the door. My heart felt like it would burst from my chest. I could hear whispers mixed with laughter I couldn't quite make out. My hand trembled as it reached for the doorknob. I didn't know who or what I would see behind that door. I cracked the door open, millimeter by millimeter. The metallic creak scratched at my ear as I held my breath. It felt like even that sound would alert whoever was inside, would give me away. The first thing I saw were two silhouettes, almost turned into shadows by the steam. They stood so close together that it was impossible to distinguish the distance between them. A jealousy mixed with fear suddenly rising inside me stabbed into my stomach. I heard a soft laugh through the steam. Familiar. So familiar. But my brain refused to accept it. No, I said to myself, this is impossible. Just as my eyes began to focus through the mist, one of the shadows turned its head toward me. I thought I would see the face, but at that moment, the bathroom light suddenly went out. The bathroom was plunged into pitch darkness. My heart was beating in my throat. In the darkness, only the echo of heavy breaths mixing together remained. Then, I heard something fall and roll on the floor. Was it glass? A bottle? I couldn't be sure. Then came a metallic sound hitting the edge of the sink. This sound was so familiar, like an old bowl from our kitchen falling. Whispers rose from inside, a woman's voice hushed and frantic, but the words weren't clear. Then came a hoarse male voice. I could sense both of them urgently whispering shh to each other. I stepped back, but the floorboard under my feet creaked. Silence. That silence hit me like a slap in the face. The next second, a hand reached out from inside the door and grabbed my arm. I almost screamed. The hand gripped my arm so tightly I could feel the imprint of nails on my skin. The door opened completely. As the steam cleared, I saw their faces. Standing before me was David, my husband of all these years. Half naked, his eyes frozen like a thief caught red-handed. But what truly stabbed my heart was the person standing beside him. That person was my own mother, Margaret. Her hair was wet, she wore a bathrobe, and her eyes weren't so much ashamed as defiant, staring at me. I was speechless. I looked at both of them, but couldn't find words. They said nothing either, only filling the silence with their breathing. At that moment, one question echoed in my mind. Why? And for how long? The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap. I could hear the drip, drip, drip of the faucet behind them, each drop marking another second of this nightmare. Rosa. David finally spoke, his voice cracking. He reached for a towel, wrapping it around his waist with trembling hands. This isn't... We can explain. Explain. The word burst from my lips like venom. You're going to explain why you're in the bathroom with my mother in the middle of the night. Margaret shifted, tightening the belt of her robe. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, I saw something in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? But then it hardened into something else. Something cold. Don't be dramatic, Rosa, she said, her voice steady in a way that made my skin crawl. You're jumping to conclusions. Am I? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that didn't sound like me at all. Then please, Mother, enlighten me. What innocent explanation could there possibly be? David stepped forward, and I instinctively stepped back. That small movement, my retreat from the man I'd shared a bed with for 7 years, seemed to break something in him. His face crumpled. "It's not what you think," he whispered. "Then what is it?" I screamed, my voice echoing off the tiled walls. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my husband and my mother were... Stop. Margaret's command cut through my words like a blade. She moved toward me, and I saw that she wasn't wet from a shower. Her hair, her skin, it was sweat. The realization made my stomach turn. I stumbled backward into the hallway, my hand finding the wall for support. The floral wallpaper I'd picked out 3 years ago, when this was still my home, my marriage, my life, felt rough under my palm. "How long?" I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. Neither of them answered. "How long?" I screamed it this time, and somewhere in the house I heard our cat Whiskers skitter away in fear. David's shoulders sagged. 6 months, he breathed. 6 months. Half a year. I counted backward in my mind. 6 months ago was April. April, when David had suggested we invite my mother to stay with us just for a little while after her divorce from my stepfather. April, when I'd been thrilled to have her close again after years of living in different states. April, when I'd been the dutiful daughter and the trusting wife. Since she moved in. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away. Margaret laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, Rosa, sweet, naive Rosa. It started long before that." The hallway tilted. I gripped the wall harder, afraid I might fall. What do you mean?" "Your wedding," Margaret said, almost casually, like she was discussing the weather. "The reception." David and I connected. He was unhappy even then, you know. You were so focused on your career, so obsessed with that promotion. That was 3 years ago. The scream tore from my throat. "My wedding day! On my wedding day!" David reached for me. "Rosa, please, let me... Don't touch me." I jerked away so violently I crashed into the small table in the hallway. The vase on top, the one my grandmother had given me before she died, fell to the floor and shattered. We all stared at the broken pieces, blue and white porcelain, scattered like my life. "I need to leave," I said, my voice mechanical. "I need to get out of this house." I turned and walked toward our bedroom. No, not ours anymore, just a room, grabbing clothes without looking at them. Jeans, a sweater, my phone, my wallet. My hands moved automatically while my brain struggled to process anything. Behind me, I heard them whispering urgently. I caught fragments. "Told you she'd react like this. Need to calm her down. Can't let her leave." "Can't let me leave?" I spun around to find them both standing in the bedroom doorway, blocking my exit. "Move," I said flatly. "Rosa, we need to talk about this," David said, and the audacity, the sheer audacity of him thinking we could just talk, made me laugh. It was a broken, jagged sound that scared even me. Talk? What's left to talk about, David? You've been sleeping with my mother for 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of every kiss, every "I love you," every time we made love. All of it, with her face in your mind. Tell me, when you looked at me, did you see her? Did you pretend I was her? That's not... And you! I turned to Margaret, this woman who'd given birth to me, who'd braided my hair before school, who'd held me when my first boyfriend broke my heart. What kind of mother does this? What kind of woman? The kind who takes what she wants, Margaret said, her chin raised. I'm not going to apologize for living my life, Rosa, for being desired, for feeling alive again after years of being stuck in a dead marriage. So you decided to destroy mine? My voice cracked. I'm your daughter, and I'm still a woman. Margaret's eyes flashed. You have no idea what it's like, Rosa. watching your youth fade, feeling invisible. Then David looked at me, really looked at me, and I felt seen again, wanted, beautiful. "You're 53 years old," I shouted. "Exactly," she shouted back. 53 and finally living instead of just existing. Your father, your stepfather, he stopped touching me years ago. Do you know what that feels like? To be married to someone who can't stand the sight of you? So you seduced my husband? He was already yours, Margaret said coldly. I just borrowed him. The casual cruelty of it, the complete lack of remorse hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward onto the bed. "Get out of my way," I whispered. "Rosa, please." David tried again. "Get out of my way." Something in my voice must have reached them because they parted. I grabbed my overnight bag and pushed past them, their familiar scents. David's cologne, my mother's lavender body lotion, making me nauseous. I made it to the front door before David caught up with me. "Where will you go?" he asked, and I almost laughed at the question. Where would I go? Where does anyone go when their entire world collapses? "Anywhere you're not," I said, yanking my arm from his grasp. "We can fix this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever you need." "What I need is to never see either of you again." I opened the door to the cool night air. It was 1:47 a.m. The street was empty, silent except for the distant sound of a dog barking. "Rosa." Margaret's voice came from behind me. I didn't turn around. "You'll forgive us eventually. You'll understand that sometimes these things just happen. Life is complicated." "No," I said, cutting her off. "Life isn't complicated, Mother." "You are. Both of you are." "But I'm done being part of your complications." I walked to my car, threw my bag in the passenger seat, and started the engine. Through the windshield, I could see them standing in the doorway, my husband and my mother side by side in a way that would have looked innocent just an hour ago. Now it made me sick. I drove. I didn't know where I was going, but I drove anyway, leaving that house, that tomb of lies behind me. I ended up at Emma's apartment. My best friend since college, Emma had always been my safe harbor. When I knocked on her door at 2:30 a.m., mascara streaking my face, she took one look at me and pulled me inside without a word. "Coffee or whiskey?" she asked. "Both," I croaked. She made me chamomile tea instead and wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. I sat on her couch, shivering despite the warmth, and told her everything, every horrible, humiliating detail. Emma's face went through several emotions, shock, disgust, rage, before settling on a steely determination I'd seen before. It was the same look she'd had when her ex-boyfriend had cheated on her junior year. 2 weeks later, everyone on campus knew what he'd done. "We're going to destroy them," she said simply. "Emma, no, Rosa, they don't get to do this to you and walk away clean. Your mother especially. What kind of psychopath?" "I don't want revenge," I interrupted, though even as I said it, I wasn't sure if it was true. I want to understand. Why? What did I do wrong?" "Nothing." Emma gripped my hands. "This is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. They did. They're the ones who betrayed you, who lied to you, who—" She stopped, taking a breath. "You can't blame yourself for their sickness." But I did blame myself. As I lay on Emma's couch that night, unable to sleep, I replayed every moment of the past 3 years, every time David had been distant, every time my mother had been overly interested in our marriage, every family dinner where they'd sat next to each other. The signs had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. My phone buzzed constantly, texts from David, calls from Margaret, voicemails I didn't listen to. Finally, around 4 a.m., I turned it off. The next morning, Emma called in sick to work and took me to breakfast. I pushed eggs around my plate while she made a list. First, we get you a lawyer, she said. A good one. My cousin Jennifer specializes in divorce cases. She's a shark. I don't have money for a lawyer. You have a joint bank account with David, right? Clean it out today, before he does. The thought hadn't occurred to me, but Emma was right. I pulled out my phone, still off, and stared at it. What if he's already... Then we'll figure it out. But Rosa, you need to protect yourself. These people clearly don't care about you. You need to care about you. I turned on my phone. 53 messages. I ignored them all and opened my banking app. The joint account we'd been building for our someday dream house had $87,432. My hands shook as I transferred $43,716, exactly half, into my personal account. Then I saw it. A charge from last week, the Riverside Hotel, $347.50. What is it? Emma leaned over to look. Her face hardened. That's the hotel downtown. The fancy one. I clicked through more transactions. The Riverside Hotel appeared 7 times in the past 6 months. So did charges from Victoria's Secret, expensive restaurants, a jewelry store. He was taking her on dates, I whispered, with our money. With the money we were saving for our future. Emma's hand found mine. Photograph everything, every transaction. Your lawyer will need this. I spent the next hour taking screenshots, my anger building with each swipe. The evidence was damning. They hadn't even tried to hide it. Why would they? They never thought I'd find out. Around noon, there was a knock on Emma's door. We both froze. Did you tell anyone you were here? Emma whispered. I shook my head. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Rosa, I know you're in there. David's voice muffled through the door. Your car is outside. Please, just let me explain. Go away, Emma shouted. She doesn't want to see you. Rosa, please. Your mother and I, we ended it. Last night. After you left. It's over. I want to work on our marriage. I love you. Please. You love her? I found my voice walking toward the door but not opening it. You've been screwing my mother for 3 years, but you love me? It was a mistake. A horrible, terrible mistake. I was confused. Save it for your lawyer, David. Silence. Then, you're really going to throw away 7 years of marriage? Just like that? No, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You threw it away. You threw it away every time you touched her, every time you lied to me, every time you looked me in the eye and said, I love you, while planning your next hotel visit with my mother. How did you... He stopped. You went through our bank statements. Our statements. It's my money, too. Money you spent on romancing my mother. Another long silence. Then, I'll leave you alone. But Rosa, I really am sorry for what it's worth. It's worth nothing, I said. I heard his footsteps retreating down the hall. Emma peeked through the peephole to make sure he was really gone, then turned to me. You were amazing, she said. I didn't feel amazing. I felt hollow, empty, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just a shell standing. That afternoon, I met with Jennifer, Emma's cousin. She was exactly as advertised, sharp, efficient, and ruthless. She looked through my screenshots and whistled. This is going to be an easy case, she said. Infidelity, financial misconduct. You'll get a very favorable settlement. I don't care about the money, I said. You should. You're going to need it to start over. She leaned back in her chair. I have to ask, do you want to pursue anything against your mother? Like what? Alienation of affection. It's a rare lawsuit, but in this state, you can sue a third party for interfering in your marriage. The affair partner. I stared at her. I can sue my own mother? You can. The question is, Do you want to? Did I? Part of me, the part that was still that little girl who'd worshipped her mother, recoiled at the idea. But another part, the part that had seen Margaret standing in that bathroom without a shred of remorse, wanted her to pay. Let me think about it, I said. Don't think too long. You'll want to file for divorce as soon as possible, and we should include all potential claims in the initial filing. I left Jennifer's office with a folder full of paperwork and a court date 3 weeks away. 3 weeks until my marriage would officially begin its death. That evening, I finally listened to my mother's voicemails. The first one was apologetic. "Rosa, sweetheart, please call me back. I know you're upset, but we need to talk about this like adults." The second was defensive. "You're being unreasonable. This isn't just about you, you know. I have needs too. I deserve to be happy." The third was angry. "Fine, be dramatic. But don't come crying to me when you realize you overreacted. Men cheat, Rosa. It's what they do. If you were more attentive to David's needs, maybe he wouldn't have—" I deleted it before she could finish. The fourth message was from earlier that day. "Your father called me. He wants to know what's going on. I didn't tell him anything because I thought we could keep this private, but if you're going to be difficult about this, I'll have no choice but to blackmail." My mother was threatening to blackmail me. 2 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Is this Rosa Winters?" A woman's voice, older, uncertain. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Patricia Chen. I think I might know your mother. Margaret Hayes?" My blood ran cold. "How do you know my mother?" "I was married to Richard Chen. I believe you knew him as your stepfather, the man my mother had divorced 6 months ago." "I'm listening." "I saw on social media that you and your husband separated. I'm sorry. That's invasive of me to look. But after what happened with Margaret and Richard, I've been keeping tabs, I suppose. What happened with my mother and your husband?" Patricia hesitated. "The same thing that's happening to you, I suspect. Margaret had an affair with Richard while he was still married to his first wife, my predecessor. That's how they got together. My legs gave out." I sat down heavily on Emma's couch. "Are you saying my mother has a pattern of this?" "I'm saying your mother destroys marriages for sport." Patricia's voice hardened. "She seduced Richard, waited until his divorce was finalized, married him, then got bored and moved on to her next target. I should have seen it coming. The way she talked about her son-in-law at family dinners, always complimenting him, finding excuses to be near him." "Wait. She talked about David to you?" "Constantly. How handsome he was, how successful, how she couldn't understand why you worked so much when you had a man like that at home. I thought she was just being critical of you, the way mothers sometimes are. Now I realize she was planning." I felt sick. "How long were you married to my stepfather?" 4 years. He left me for Margaret 5 years ago. She probably mentioned I was cold, distant, that I didn't appreciate him. She said exactly that. It's what she does. She identifies her target, befriends the wife, undermines the relationship, then swoops in as the understanding other woman. By the time the man realizes what's happened, she's already bored and looking for her next conquest. But David, she's been with him for 3 years. That's longer than... "Is it?" Patricia asked quietly. "Or has she been stringing him along while looking for someone even better? Someone with more money, more status?" Margaret always trades up. The room spun. I thought about my mother's behavior over the past few months, the way she'd been going out more, dressing up, being secretive about where she was going. "I need to look into something," I said. "Thank you for calling me." "Rosa, one more thing. Document everything." When I tried to get justice for what Margaret did to my marriage, I had nothing concrete. She was careful. learn from my mistake. After we hung up, I called Jennifer. "I need you to hire a private investigator," I said. "To follow David, to follow my mother." The PE's name was Marcus Reeves, and he was worth every penny. Within a week, he had a report that made my jaw drop. Margaret wasn't just seeing David. She was also having an affair with her divorce attorney, a man named Thomas Brandt who was currently married, and she was spending time with a wealthy widower named George Callahan, who attended her book club. "Your mother is conducting at least 3 affairs simultaneously," Marcus said, spreading photographs across Jennifer's desk. "Possibly more." "She's quite busy." I stared at a photo of my mother kissing Thomas Brandt outside an Italian restaurant. Another showed her getting into George Callahan's Mercedes. A third captured her leaving David's office building. When had she been visiting him at work? "She's not in love with David," I said slowly. "She never was." "It appears to be a pattern of behavior," Marcus agreed. "Based on her digital footprint and the timeline I've constructed, she's been doing this for at least a decade, possibly longer." "A decade?" I looked up at him. "My real father. Did she—" "I'd need more time to investigate your parents' divorce, but based on what I've found, it's certainly possible." My entire childhood suddenly looked different. Every argument between my parents, every time my father had looked at my mother with hurt and confusion, every moment I'd sided with her because she was my mom, and moms don't lie. She'd been lying all along. "There's more," Marcus said, pulling out another folder. "Your mother has significant debt, credit cards, personal loans. She's leveraged to the hilt. How is that possible? Her divorce settlement from my stepfather was substantial. She spent it on hotels, gifts, maintaining multiple relationships. The kind of lifestyle she's living requires constant cash flow. I thought about our house, mine and David's house, where my mother had been living rent-free for 6 months. The joint bank account she had access to because David had added her 4 emergencies. The credit card we'd given her for groceries. She's been stealing from us, I whispered. Jennifer leaned forward. We can add financial fraud to the divorce filing, and with this evidence of her multiple affairs, we can definitely pursue alienation of affection. The court will not look favorably on her behavior. Do it, I said, all of it. The divorce filing made the local news. Small-town drama. Local woman sues husband and mother for affair. The phone calls started immediately. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions. Most supported me. Some, mostly my mother's friends, called me vindictive, cruel, and ungrateful. "How dare you air your family's dirty laundry in public?" my Aunt Susan hissed over the phone. "Your mother made a mistake. People make mistakes, Rosa." "For 3 years?" I shot back. "That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Multiple choices. Daily choices." She hung up on me, but others called to share their own stories. My father's second wife, Diane, revealed that my parents' divorce had indeed been caused by an affair. My mother's affair with my father's business partner. Women from my mother's various social circles came forward with suspicions and stories that painted a picture of a serial predator. The most devastating call came from David's brother, Alex. "I should have told you," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "I saw them together. 8 months ago, at a restaurant across town, I convinced myself I was mistaken, that it couldn't be what it looked like." "I'm so sorry, Rosa." 8 months ago. That was when I'd been up for the promotion at work, putting in long hours, trusting my husband to handle things at home, trusting my mother to be helpful, supportive. "It's not your fault," I told Alex. "They're very good liars." The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Friday morning. I wore a navy suit, professional, composed, nothing like the broken woman who'd fled her house 3 weeks ago. Jennifer had prepared me for what to expect, but nothing could have prepared me for seeing them together. David and Margaret sat on the opposite side of the courtroom with David's lawyer. They weren't sitting together. There was a careful distance between them, but I could see the way my mother kept glancing at him, the way his hand twitched toward hers before stopping. Even now, even here, they couldn't help themselves. The judge was a woman in her 60s, Judge Patricia Thornton, with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She reviewed the case file, her expression growing increasingly severe. "Mrs. Winters," she said, addressing my mother, "you're aware that you're also named in this suit?" "Yes, Your Honor," Margaret said, her voice small, playing the victim already. "And Mr. Winters, you acknowledge the affair?" "Yes, Your Honor." David stared at his hands. "And both of you conducted this affair under Mrs. Rosa Winters' roof, using marital funds for your activities." "Your Honor, if I may," David's lawyer started. "No, you may not." "I'm asking yes or no questions." Judge Thornton fixed them both with a withering stare. "Did you or did you not conduct an affair that began during the marriage and continued for approximately 3 years?" "Yes," they said in unison. "Did you or did you not spend marital assets on this affair?" "Yes." "And Mrs. Margaret Winters, are you the mother of the plaintiff?" My mother's facade cracked slightly. "Yes." The judge set down her pen. "In my 30 years on the bench, I have never seen such a grotesque violation of family trust. Mrs. Hayes, I am personally appalled by your behavior." "Your Honor, my client's relationship with her daughter," my mother's lawyer began, "is irrelevant to the case law but highly relevant to my assessment of her character. Be quiet." Judge Thornton turned to me. "Mrs. Winters, I want you to know that this court takes these matters seriously. The evidence presented shows a clear pattern of financial misconduct and emotional devastation. I'm granting your request for an expedited divorce and awarding you primary control of all marital assets pending the full hearing." David's head snapped up. "Your Honor, that's not fair? You want to talk to me about fair?" The judge's voice could have cut glass. "You spent 3 years lying to your wife, conducting an affair with her mother, and spending her money to do it. You'll be lucky if you leave this marriage with anything beyond the clothes on your back." She turned to my mother. "As for the alienation of affection claim, I'm allowing it to proceed. Mrs. Hayes, you might want to consider settling, because if this goes to trial, I suspect a jury will not be sympathetic." The hearing lasted another 20 minutes, but the important parts were over. I had won the first battle. As we filed out of the courtroom, my mother tried to approach me. "Rosa, please, can we just talk? Mother to daughter?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who'd given birth to me, who I'd shared my secrets with, who I'd trusted more than anyone. Now I saw her clearly. A narcissist, a predator, someone who used people until they had nothing left to give. "You're not my mother," I said quietly. "My mother died the night I found you in that bathroom. I don't know who you are." Her face contorted. "After everything I did for you? I raised you. You destroyed me," I interrupted. "You took the one thing that should have been sacred, my marriage, and you destroyed it for fun, because you were bored, because you could." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Margaret? Tell me. Make me understand how a mother does this to her daughter." She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time since this nightmare began, she had no words. David stepped forward. "Rosa, for what it's worth." "Nothing," I said. "It's worth nothing. You betrayed me with the one person who should have protected me. There's no coming back from that. There's no forgiveness big enough." I walked away, Emma by my side, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house, 3/4 of our assets, and David's retirement account. My mother was ordered to pay $50,000 in damages for alienation of affection, money she didn't have and would likely be paying off for years. David moved to another state. I heard through the grapevine that he and my mother tried to make it work after everything went public, but it fell apart within a month. Turns out their relationship only worked in secret, fueled by betrayal and lies. In the harsh light of reality, they had nothing. My mother sent me letters, long, rambling things that alternated between apology and blame. I burned them without reading past the first paragraph. Some wounds don't heal. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. What surprised me most was how okay I ended up being. The first few months were brutal. Therapy twice a week, nightmares, crying jags that left me hollow. But slowly, steadily, I rebuilt. I threw myself into work and got the promotion I'd been chasing. I traveled to places David had never wanted to go: Thailand, Peru, Iceland. I learned to cook, took up pottery, adopted a rescue dog named Phoenix. I made new friends who didn't know the old Rosa, the one who'd been naive enough to trust everyone. These friends knew the version of me that had survived, that had learned to trust carefully, love cautiously, and never ever take family loyalty for granted. Emma remained my constant. She was there for the hard days when the pain felt fresh, and she was there for the good days when I remembered how to laugh again. She helped me paint the house, our house now, since I'd bought out David's share, in bright colors that erased every trace of my old life. 1 year after the divorce, I started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and movie nights with men who didn't carry the weight of betrayal on their shoulders. It felt strange, this cautious hope, but it also felt real in a way my marriage never had. I learned that my mother had moved to Florida, chasing another man with money and a trusting nature. David tried to reach out once on what would have been our 10th anniversary. I deleted the email without reading it. Some doors, once closed, should stay that way. My real father came back into my life. Diane, his wife, had always been kind to me, and after everything came out, he shared his own story of my mother's betrayal. We began having monthly dinners, building a relationship that had been fractured by lies. He told me he'd always loved me but hadn't fought for custody because my mother had convinced him I was better off with her. She was very persuasive, he said sadly. I believed her when she said you needed stability, that a custody battle would hurt you. I didn't realize she just wanted child support without the inconvenience of my involvement. It hurt to hear, but it also explained so much. All those years, I'd thought my father didn't care. He'd been kept away. We couldn't get back that lost time, but we could move forward. And we did. Part 7. The Aftermath. The weeks following the finalization of my divorce were strange. I'd expected to feel relieved, free even. Instead, I felt suspended in a kind of limbo, caught between the life I'd lost and the life I hadn't yet built. The house felt too big, too quiet. Every room held memories that ambushed me at unexpected moments. The kitchen where David had kissed me goodbye every morning. Were those kisses lies even then? The living room where my mother and I had watched movies together, her head on my shoulder. Had she been calculating even during those tender moments? I considered selling the house, starting completely fresh somewhere new. Emma thought it was a good idea. Too many ghosts here, she said, watching me stare blankly at the wall David's favorite chair had occupied. But something in me refused to run. They had taken enough from me. They didn't get to take my home, too. So instead, I changed it. Room by room, I erased them. The master bedroom was first. I hired painters and chose a soft sage green that David would have hated. I bought a new bed, bigger than our old one, with crisp white linens and threw pillows in jewel tones. The old mattress, where David had slept beside me while planning his next encounter with my mother, I had hauled away and burned in Emma's family's fire pit upstate. It was deeply satisfying to watch it go up in flames. The bathroom, the scene of my discovery, took longer. For weeks, I couldn't bring myself to even shower in there. I used the guest bathroom instead, avoiding that space like it was contaminated. Eventually, Emma staged an intervention. "You can't let them haunt you forever," she said, rolling up her sleeves. "We're renovating this room today." We spent an entire weekend tearing out the old fixtures. I took a sledgehammer to the tiles, each swing releasing a little more rage. We replaced everything: new bathtub, new sink, new lighting. By the time we finished, it looked nothing like the bathroom where my world had shattered. The first time I showered in there after the renovation, I cried. Not from pain, but from something like pride. I had reclaimed this space. It was mine again. 3 months post-divorce, Jennifer called me into her office with an urgent tone I'd learned to recognize. "We have a problem," she said, spreading documents across her desk. "Or rather, David has a problem, and it might become your problem." "What now?" "Do you remember signing any business documents during your marriage? Any loans, contracts, that sort of thing?" I thought back. David sometimes brought paperwork home from work. I'd sign things if he asked, but I didn't really read them. He said they were just routine business stuff. Jennifer's expression darkened. "That's what I was afraid of." "Rosa, your name is on several business loans totaling over $300,000. David used you as a co-signer without fully explaining what you were signing." My stomach dropped. "But the divorce settlement protects you from most marital debt, yes. But these loans were taken out by David's company, with you as a personal guarantor. The company is now defaulting on those loans, and the creditors are coming after both of you. That's not possible." David's company was successful. He always said he lied. Jennifer pushed a financial report toward me. His company has been bleeding money for 2 years. He was taking out loans to cover operational costs and using creative accounting to hide the losses. The creditors are filing suit next week. I stared at the numbers, my vision blurring. Even in divorce, David was still destroying my life. What can we do? We fight it. We argue that you signed under false pretenses, that David committed fraud by misrepresenting what you were signing. But Rosa, I need to be honest with you. It's going to be expensive, time-consuming, and there's no guarantee we'll win. How expensive? Legal fees could run $50,000 or more. And if we lose, you could be on the hook for your share of those loans, potentially $150,000. I felt the walls closing in. I'd just gotten my life back together, just started to feel stable again. And now this. "There's one other option," Jennifer said carefully. "David's lawyer called me this morning. They want to negotiate." "What kind of negotiation?" "David is willing to take full responsibility for the loans if you agree to certain terms." I laughed bitterly. "Let me guess. He wants something from me." "He wants you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. No book, no interviews, no public discussion of the affair or the divorce. He's worried about his professional reputation." "His reputation?" My voice rose. "He's worried about his reputation." Apparently, several of his business partners are threatening to withdraw their investments because of the scandal. He thinks if you stay quiet, he can salvage his company and his career. I stood up and paced the office, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to refuse out of pure spite. Why should I protect him? Why should I help him save face after everything he'd done? But the practical part of me, the part that had grown stronger in the past year, recognized the trap I was in. Fighting the loan issue could bankrupt me. Signing the NDA would at least protect me financially. "What exactly would the NDA cover?" I asked. "Any discussion of David, the affair, or the divorce. You couldn't write about it, talk about it publicly, or participate in any media coverage. You could still tell friends and family, still go to therapy and discuss it there, but nothing public." I thought about the blog I'd started, where I'd been anonymously sharing my healing journey. Thought about the women who'd reached out saying my story helped them feel less alone. I need time to think about it. You have 48 hours. After that, David's lawyer says the offer expires and they'll pursue the full loan amount against you. That evening, I sat in my newly renovated living room, staring at the NDA Jennifer had emailed me. Phoenix sensed my distress and pressed his warm body against my leg. My phone rang, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Rosa? This is Patricia Chen. We spoke a few months ago about your mother. I remember. I heard about David's lawsuit, about the loans. She paused. I want to help you. How did you even... Small town. Word travels. Rosa, I went through something similar with your mother's ex-husband. My ex-husband. Richard did the same thing. Loans, credit cards in my name, financial manipulation. I nearly lost everything fighting it. What did you do? I gathered evidence. Emails, text messages, financial documents that proved he'd forged my signature or misrepresented what I was signing. It took 2 years and most of my savings, but I won. I don't have 2 years or savings to spare, I said wearily. I know, that's why I'm calling. I kept everything, all my research on financial fraud, all the legal precedents, expert witnesses I found. I'm sending it all to you. Maybe it will help your lawyer build a stronger case. Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Because your mother destroyed my life, too. She got away with it. No consequences, no justice. But maybe if you fight David and win, it's a kind of proxy victory. Does that make sense? It did, more than she knew. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. One more thing. Don't sign that NDA. Whatever David's offering you, it's not worth your silence. These men, and women like your mother, they count on us staying quiet. They count on shame keeping us isolated. The moment you sign that paper, you give them power over you again. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness, thinking. Patricia was right. The NDA wasn't just about money. It was about control. David was trying to control the narrative, to bury his sins beneath legal paperwork and threats. But I was done being controlled. I called Jennifer. Tell David's lawyer the answer is no. We fight. The legal discovery process was brutal. David's lawyers demanded access to my emails, texts, phone records, anything they could use to prove I'd been aware of the company's financial troubles. I handed everything over because I had nothing to hide, but David did. Jennifer's team found emails between David and his business partner, Greg, that were damning. Messages discussing how to keep Rosa in the dark about the loans, jokes about having me sign documents while she's distracted with work stuff. Most damning of all, an email from Greg asking if David was sure he wanted to keep stringing Rosa along when he was clearly more into Margaret. The email was dated 2.5 years ago, months before I discovered the affair. This proves knowledge and intent, Jennifer explained. David deliberately deceived you about both the affair and the financial documents. This strengthens our fraud claims significantly. We also found something else. Evidence that Margaret had been directly involved in David's business dealings. She'd attended meetings, signed documents as a consultant, and had even been receiving payments from the company, payments that came from the loan money I'd unknowingly guaranteed. Your mother was helping him commit fraud against you, Jennifer said, her voice tight with anger. She wasn't just sleeping with him. She was actively participating in stealing from you. The betrayal somehow felt fresh again, like picking at a wound that had just started to heal. My mother hadn't just destroyed my marriage. She'd been systematically robbing me. We added her back to the lawsuit. David's deposition was scheduled for a gray Tuesday in November, exactly 1 year after I'd caught them together. I wasn't required to attend, but Jennifer thought my presence might unsettle him. She was right. David walked into the conference room and stopped short when he saw me. He'd lost weight, I noticed. His suit hung loose on his frame, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Part of me felt satisfaction at seeing him suffering. A smaller part, the part that had loved him once, felt a twinge of sadness. I crushed that part quickly. His lawyer, Stephen Marks, was a slick corporate attorney in an expensive suit. He opened with pleasantries that fooled no one. Then Jennifer began her questioning. "Mr. Winters, did you have Mrs. Rosa Winters sign loan documents as a personal guarantor for your company?" "Yes." "And did you explain to her the full extent of what she was signing?" David shifted in his seat. "I told her they were business documents." "Did you tell her specifically that she would be personally liable for over $300,000 in loans if your company defaulted?" "I may not have explained it in those exact terms." "Did you explain it in any terms?" Silence. "Mr. Winters, please answer the question." "No, I didn't explain the full extent." Jennifer pulled out a document. "This is an email from you to your business partner, Greg Chen, dated March 15th of last year. Can you read the highlighted portion for the record?" David's jaw tightened. "Rosa signed the documents. She didn't read them carefully. Too busy with her promotion. We're good to go." "Too busy with her promotion," Jennifer repeated. "So you deliberately chose a time when your wife was distracted by work to have her sign documents you knew she wouldn't read carefully?" I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" "I just meant the timing worked out." "Worked out for whom?" "Not for Rosa, certainly. She's now facing potential liability for loans she didn't understand she was signing." Stephen interrupted. "Your Honor, Counselor, you're badgering my client." "I'm questioning his credibility. There's a difference." Jennifer pulled out another document. "Mr. Winters, were you having an affair with your wife's mother, Margaret Hayes, at the time Rosa signed these loan documents?" The room went silent. Even Stephen looked surprised by the question. Yes." "And did Margaret Hayes have any involvement in your business?" "She consulted occasionally." "Consulted?" Jennifer's tone was skeptical. "You paid her $7,000 a month for consulting. What exactly was she consulting on?" "Business development, marketing, client relations." "Did she have any professional qualifications in these areas?" "She had life experience." "Life experience." Jennifer let that hang in the air. "Mr. Winters, isn't it true that you were paying Margaret Hayes $7,000 a month to keep her dependent on you and your company? To keep her in the affair? That's not. And isn't it also true that you used loan money Rosa had guaranteed to make those payments?" Stephen stood up. "We need a break." "No," David said quietly. "No, it's fine." "Yes, I used the loan money to pay Margaret. I thought the company would recover. I thought I could pay it all back before anyone found out." "But the company didn't recover," Jennifer pressed. "It got worse. And rather than tell your wife the truth, you continued the affair, continued the payments to Margaret, and continued to bury Rosa deeper in debt she didn't know about." David's hands were shaking. "I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant to hurt her this badly. But you did hurt her. You defrauded her, you betrayed her, and now you're trying to force her to sign an NDA to protect yourself from the consequences of your actions." I watched David crumble, his lawyer frantically whispering in his ear, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. He was a stranger to me now, someone I'd once known but didn't anymore. The deposition continued for 3 more hours. By the end, we had everything we needed to prove fraud, and David knew it. My mother's deposition was scheduled for the following week. She tried to postpone it 3 times, but the judge denied each request. Finally, on a cold December morning, she showed up. I hadn't seen her in person since the courthouse hearing months ago. She looked older, harder. Her hair was dyed a brassy blonde that didn't suit her, and her makeup was too heavy, like armor against the world. She didn't look at me when she entered the room. Jennifer started gently establishing basic facts: Margaret's relationship to me, her residence in our home, the timeline of events. Then she brought out the financial records. Mrs. Hayes, you received monthly payments of $7,000 from Winters Consulting Group. What were these payments for? Consulting work. What kind of consulting? Business development. Can you describe a specific project you worked on? My mother's eyes darted to her lawyer. I helped with client outreach. Can you name a specific client you helped reach? Silence. Mrs. Hayes, isn't it true that you had no professional role in the company and these payments were simply money David Winters gave you to fund your lifestyle? That's not... I provided valuable services. Jennifer pulled out a document. This is David Winters' sworn deposition testimony from last week. He states, and I quote, "Margaret had no real role in the company. The payments were personal. Do you dispute his testimony?" My mother's face flushed. David doesn't appreciate what I contributed. What did you contribute? I provided support, emotional support. He was unhappy in his marriage. Emotional support, Jennifer interrupted. So you're admitting the payments were for your personal relationship with Mr. Winters, not for business services. I'm saying it was complicated. Let's uncomplicate it. You were having an affair with your daughter's husband. He paid you $7,000 a month. That money came from loans your daughter had personally guaranteed. You knew she'd signed those loan documents, didn't you? I may have been aware. Yes or no, Mrs. Hayes? Did you know Rosa had signed loan documents making her personally liable for the company's debts? Yes. The admission hung in the air like a bomb, and you said nothing to her. It wasn't my place. You were her mother. Jennifer's voice rose for the first time, genuine anger breaking through her professional demeanor. You were her mother, and you stood by while your lover buried your daughter in debt. You took money that was effectively stolen from her, and you used it to fund your affair with her husband. My mother's lawyer tried to intervene, but Margaret waved her off. Something in her expression changed, the mask slipping to reveal the calculation beneath. Rosa is so naive, my mother said coldly. She always has been. She thought she could have it all, the career, the perfect marriage, the dutiful mother living under her roof. She didn't pay attention to David. She left him vulnerable. So this is her fault? Jennifer asked, incredulous. I'm saying she shares responsibility. If she'd been a better wife... Stop. The word came from me. I hadn't planned to speak, but I couldn't stay silent anymore. You don't get to blame me for your choices. You seduced my husband. You took money from me. You destroyed my family. That's on you, not me. Margaret finally looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes was chilling. No remorse, no shame, just cold justification. You'll understand when you're older, she said. When your youth fades and men stop seeing you. You'll understand why I did what I had to do. No, I said firmly. I'll never understand betraying your own child. I'll never understand putting your ego above your daughter's happiness. That's not age or wisdom, Margaret. That's just cruelty. She flinched at the use of her first name. Not Mom, not Mother. Just Margaret. The deposition ended shortly after. As we packed up, Margaret tried one last time to approach me. Rosa, wait. Can we just talk? Privately? I looked at her, this woman who'd given birth to me but had never really been my mother. We'll talk in court, I said. Bring your checkbook. 2 weeks before the trial was set to begin, David's lawyer called with a settlement offer. He wants to settle everything, Jennifer told me. Full responsibility for all loans, release you from any financial liability, plus $125,000 in damages. And what does he want in return? Nothing. No NDA, no conditions. He just wants to end this. I was suspicious. Why now? His company is going under regardless. He's filing for bankruptcy next month. I think he's trying to do one decent thing before it all falls apart. What about Margaret? She's still refusing to settle. Says she'll see us in court. Of course she was. Margaret had never backed down from anything in her life. I accepted David's settlement. Not because I forgave him, I didn't, but because fighting him further felt like throwing good money after bad. He was already broken. Destroying him completely wouldn't heal me. But Margaret? That was different. The trial began on a Monday in February, 18 months after the night that changed everything. The courthouse was a stately building downtown, all marble and mahogany, the kind of place where justice was supposed to be served. I wore a charcoal suit and my grandmother's pearl earrings, armor for battle. The jury, 8 women, 4 men, listened as Jennifer laid out our case. She presented the financial records, the emails, David's testimony, the timeline of events. She showed how Margaret had knowingly participated in defrauding me, had accepted money she knew was obtained through loans I'd guaranteed, had destroyed my marriage while stealing my money. Margaret's lawyer, a woman named Diana Cross, tried to paint my mother as a victim herself, a lonely, middle-aged divorcee who'd been seduced by a younger man, who'd had no real understanding of the financial arrangements, who'd simply fallen in love in unfortunate circumstances. The jury didn't buy it, especially after we called witnesses. Patricia Chen testified about her marriage to my stepfather, how Margaret had destroyed that relationship too. Alex, David's brother, testified about seeing them together and the guilt he still carried. Emma testified about the state she'd found me in that night, the trauma and devastation. And then I took the stand. Jennifer led me through my story, the marriage, the relationship with my mother, the discovery in the bathroom. I kept my voice steady, my emotions controlled. I wasn't performing, I was simply telling the truth. "How did you feel when you discovered the affair?" Jennifer asked. "Shattered," I said simply. I felt like everything I'd believed about my life was a lie. The 2 people I trusted most in the world had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And when you learned about the financial fraud, it felt like they'd killed me twice. Once emotionally, once financially. They didn't just break my heart, they tried to destroy my future. Diana Cross's cross-examination was aggressive, trying to paint me as a career-obsessed wife who'd neglected her marriage, who'd been absent and inattentive. "Isn't it true you worked 60 hours a week?" she demanded. "Sometimes? Isn't it true your husband complained you were never home?" "He never complained to me. Maybe because you weren't there to hear it." Jennifer objected, but the implication hung in the air. I took a breath and looked directly at the jury. I worked hard because I was building a future for my family. I trusted my husband to support that, and I trusted my mother to be honest with me. Working hard doesn't justify adultery, and it doesn't justify fraud. Nothing does. The jury nodded. I saw it. They understood. Margaret didn't testify in her own defense. Diana advised against it, probably knowing my mother couldn't be trusted not to implicate herself further. The trial lasted a week. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the forewoman read the verdict. In the matter of Rosa Winters versus Margaret Hayes, we find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts. The damages, $200,000 plus legal fees. Margaret's face went white. She turned to her lawyer, saying something urgent, panicked. But it was over. The jury had spoken. As we left the courthouse, reporters, this had become a bigger story than I'd anticipated, shouted questions. I ignored them all except one. "Do you feel vindicated?" I paused, considering. I feel like the truth mattered. That's enough. 3 days after the verdict, Margaret showed up at my house unannounced. I saw her through the window, standing on my porch, looking small and uncertain in a way I'd never seen before. My first instinct was to ignore her, to let her stand there until she gave up and left. But part of me, maybe the part that was still her daughter, despite everything, needed to hear what she'd come to say. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. "Hello, Rosa," she said quietly. "What do you want, Margaret?" She flinched at the name. I need to talk to you, to explain." "There's nothing to explain. The jury heard everything. They made their decision. Please." Her voice cracked. "Just 5 minutes, then I'll leave and never bother you again." Against my better judgment, I stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door closed behind me. I wouldn't let her back into my home. That boundary, at least, I could maintain. "Talk," I said. Margaret looked older in the fading afternoon light. The brassy blonde hair, the heavy makeup. Up close, I could see they were desperate attempts to hold back time. She was aging, and she was terrified of it. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you don't believe me, but I am. I never meant for things to go so far." "How far did you mean for them to go?" I asked. "When you first kissed my husband, how far was acceptable? When you first slept with him? When you moved into our house? At what point did it become too far?" "I was lonely," she said, and there were tears now. Real ones, I thought, though with Margaret, who could tell? After the divorce from Richard, I felt invisible, old, worthless, and David, he made me feel seen again. "So you destroyed my life because you were lonely." I didn't think about it like that. I wasn't thinking at all. I was just feeling, wanting. It had been so long since anyone had wanted me. "I wanted you," I said, my voice breaking despite my efforts to stay controlled. "I wanted you as my mother. I invited you into my home, into my life. I wanted you there. That's not the same." "You're right. It's not. Because what I offered you was real love, and what David offered was just validation for your ego. And you chose him." Margaret wiped her eyes. "I know I can't fix this. I know I've lost you, but I need you to understand. I never thought you'd find out. I thought we'd end it eventually, before you knew. I thought I could have this and still be your mother." "But that was never the plan, was it?" I said, finally saying aloud what I'd realized during the trial. "You didn't want it to end. You wanted to keep both, the affair and me. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too, literally in my house, with my money." She didn't deny it. "I need help," Margaret said finally. "The judgment, I can't pay it. I'll have to declare bankruptcy. I'll lose everything." "Good," I said simply. "Rosa, you took everything from me. Now you get to know how that feels. I'm your mother." "No," I interrupted. "You're the woman who gave birth to me. But you stopped being my mother the moment you decided your wants mattered more than my well-being. Mothers protect their children. You destroyed yours." Margaret's face crumpled. "So that's it? I'm just cut off? After everything?" I laughed, a harsh sound. "Yes, Margaret. After everything. After you betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. After you stole from me. After you showed no remorse until it cost you money. Yes, you're cut off. Did you expect anything different?" She didn't answer. We stood there in the fading light, two women who shared blood but nothing else. "I hope you get help," I said finally. "I hope you figure out whatever is broken inside you that made you do this. Not for me. I don't care anymore, but for yourself. Because this path you're on, It only ends badly." "Are you speaking from experience?" she asked bitterly. "No," I said. "I'm speaking as someone who survived what you did to me, who rebuilt, who learned that blood doesn't mean loyalty and family is earned, not given." I turned to go back inside. "Rosa," Margaret called, "will you ever forgive me?" I paused, my hand on the doorknob. I thought about it, really thought about it. Could I forgive her? Would I want to, even if I could? "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today, not for a long time. If you're waiting for my forgiveness to move on with your life, you'll be waiting forever." I went inside and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a few more minutes, looking lost and small. Then she walked to her car and drove away. I never saw her again.